to the result. If you want a lot of the details, they're in chapter 2 of the book that you hold in your hand, all right? So let's do this. How would we decode the message in our DNA? Well, first of all, DNA is made of 4 chemical bases. You've all seen these on science fiction programs. It's adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. And you typically see them abbreviated by the first letter, A, T, C, G. And you see this stuff come up in science fiction programs, all the time. You see DNA code flashing on the screen. There was even a movie called Gattaca, Gattaca. Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke starred in the movie. It was about a very special genetic code. It's your homework. If you haven't seen it, check out the movie Gattaca. Not now, but after this is finished. All right, so all of our DNA is only made from those 4 chemical bases. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look at this. Thiamine, it's going to look like Biology 101 just for a second here. Bear with me. Thymine is made of 4 elements: hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. That's it. All right, guanine, same thing. Hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. You see a pattern here. We're going somewhere with this. Cytosine, same thing. Hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. Adenine, same thing. But here's the key. The number of atoms of hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon is different for every one of those. Check this out. So here for hydrogen, for thiamine, you've got 6 hydrogens, all right? Guanine, you've only got 5. Thiamine, you've got 2 nitrogens. Guanine, you've got 5 nitrogens. And so you can see this is what sets these apart. There's different amounts of the elements, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, in each of those, okay? Good with that so far? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Does it make sense? Yes, no? I don't want to lose you. I love you guys. I love you guys so much because you're hanging in there and you're living in a world that's changing and you're making the difference, and we need you and we need your divinity. So thank you for the thumbs up. All right, so all life, all carbon-based life, including you and me, were made of that stuff on your screen right there. So now let's look at it on the periodic table of elements. It's what your kids do in school. It's what you probably did in school, and here it is. I've highlighted these in green: hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. All right. Now, there are a lot of ways to represent the words. Hydrogen is a word I'm using, but there's a lot of numbers that will represent hydrogen. There's atomic weight, atomic mass, valence, electron spin, all kinds of things, melting point. All right. Put that on hold just for a minute. Kind of take the idea, those elements, set them over here, shift gears, because we're multitasking brains. We can do this. Let's talk about ancient languages. There are 4 root writing systems that are the foundation for the ancient languages that we study today. One of those is called cuneiform. It's not an alphabet. It's actually a writing system. Interestingly, from cuneiform, Sanskrit is derived, as well as Arabic and Hebrew. All right, these are 4 ancient, they're called root or core writing systems. Now, this is important. The reason I'm saying this to you, we're going to decode a message in the DNA of every human on the face of this earth. That message is so universal that you can translate it, you can decode it into any one of these languages. You can decode it in Arabic, you can decode it in Hebrew, in Sanskrit, in cuneiform, and other ancient languages, but these are the 4 core languages. It's so universal that it works, it reads exactly the same in every one of these languages. Now, in this course, for brevity, I'm going to use Hebrew. Many of you have studied Kabbalah, and Kabbalah, you know about numbers and letters in Kabbalah. If I were in Cairo doing this, I would do it in Arabic. Same thing, all right? So I just want to be really clear about that. When you study ancient alphabets, linguistics, there's something very interesting. Every ancient alphabet has always had a mysterious number that goes with every letter in the alphabet. Nobody knows where they came from. They never change. They've always been there. And the science of studying those is called gematria or gematria. You've heard it both ways. I want to be clear, this is not numerology. Numerology is a loose, unstructured subset. Gematria is a science that is governed by 32 rabbinical rules that were laid down in the 2nd century CE, Common Era, 2nd century AD, if you're still doing that. 32 rules, and if you follow those rules tell us what we can do with those numbers. All right? So here is what I did. I took the modern way of looking at life on the periodic table, and I took the ancient way of looking at life in the ancient languages, and I said, what if they're both saying the same thing? What is the common link between the old way and the new way of looking? This is what took me so long. This is original research. I had to shift my thinking. Very different from what I was trained to do as a scientist, very different from my upbringing in the Midwest as a child. Nobody taught me to think this way, and took me almost 20 years to do this. Looking back, it was easy. I was kind of a slow learner because I was stuck in my own illusion of the boundaries between the sciences. So I had to cross the boundary between linguistics and these languages and chemistry and genetics. I'm not a geneticist. I had to do a crash course and learn genetics and DNA. All right, and mathematics and the periodic table, all of these things. Well, the bottom line is this. Let me give you a couple of examples. Here's the Hebrew alphabet. There's the letters. There's the numbers that go with it. There's the Arabic alphabet. There's the letters. There's the numbers that go with it. We could do the same thing, Sanskrit and cuneiform. All right? So every letter has a number that represents it. So here's the key, and this is what took me so long. The numbers that represent the ancient alphabets correlate with the numbers that represent the elements in our bodies. Let's say it again. The number that represents the ancient letters correlates with the number for the DNA, the hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon in our bodies. What does that mean? It means that the letters of the alphabets and the DNA are interchangeable. The letters of the alphabets and the elements of the DNA are interchangeable because they're linked by a number. All right, that's the key to what we're doing here. So if that makes sense, let's do it. Let's do this. Only one number of the elements allows us to link it to the alphabets, and that is atomic mass. Atomic mass is the number. If we find the number that represents atomic mass for hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, then that number will link us to the letters in the ancient alphabets. Now we can take the letters of the alphabets and plug them into the strand of DNA, and you literally can read this like you read the letters on the page of a book. And you and I are going to do that right now. Right now. So all I'm doing, I'm saying that these two information systems are equal. I'm not judging one as ancient and primitive and the other one as modern. All right? So if I apply the rules of gematria, ancient gematria, to the modern periodic table, those rules say that I can reduce the numbers on the periodic table to anything between 1 and 9. They're called the Pythagorean numbers, is what some people refer to these as. So let's do this together. You guys, and you know what? I'm gonna be very studious. I'm gonna put my glasses on just for a minute. I didn't wear them earlier because there's a reflection in the glass here. So let's do this. Hydrogen is 1.0 is the atomic mass. You're seeing it right there on the screen. The rules of gematria say we can reduce that to a single number. So what is 1 plus the 0? You guys tell me. You're absolutely right. It's 1. So here it is right there. Hydrogen becomes a 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. Let's go over here to nitrogen. Nitrogen is 14.0. If you apply the rules and reduce, that becomes a 5. You guys are awesome. Oxygen, 15.9. You apply the rules of gematria, and all of a sudden the oxygen becomes a 6. Carbon, 12.0. You apply the rules, carbon becomes a 3. Now we've got something really interesting because we've applied the rules of the ancient writing systems to the modern periodic table, and we can apply the periodic table rules to the ancient writing systems. We're calling them equal. Now let's build a chart. Scientists like charts. So here it is. And I know I'm moving quickly because I don't want to get bogged down. I want to get to what this means. Here on the left is the elements of DNA: hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. The atomic mass reduced to the single digit, 1, 5, 6, and 3. All right, so now let's take that. Here it is right here. No mystery. That's exactly where that came from. So you can do this on a napkin for your family at the next dinner table, and they will be impressed, okay? Or, I don't know, maybe think you're crazy. I don't know. But you'll have fun doing it. All right, now, as I said, the DNA code, it works in all these alphabets. Let's take a look at Hebrew. Here we go with Hebrew. What letters in the Hebrew alphabet correspond with 1, 5, 6, and 3 using the 32 rabbinical rules of gematria? And what we find, there's a number 1, 5, 6, and 3. And if you know Hebrew, you're going to see something happen here really quick. What we find is hydrogen becomes a Y, nitrogen becomes an H, oxygen becomes a V, a Vav, carbon becomes a G, a Gimel. All right, and there's exactly how it happened by applying those rabbinical rules or following the rules. Now, if you take that chart and you go back to the stuff we're made of, let's take cytosine, for example. Here's cytosine. It's made of hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. 5 hydrogens, and I've actually spelled them out there in a vertical column. 3 nitrogens, 1 oxygen, 4 carbons. You can see it right there. And now the little chart tells us that for every one of those elements, we can put a letter in there because of the link. All right, so when we put those letters in there, every hydrogen becomes a Y, every nitrogen becomes an H, oxygen becomes a V, every carbon becomes a G, a Gimel. So no mystery. I want you to see exactly, no hocus pocus. There's where it comes from right there. You put that back into the strand of DNA, and what you have, YHVG, YHYH. All right, and you can see exactly where that comes from. If you know Hebrew, you're already seeing it happen right here. Once again, we could do this in Arabic, Sanskrit, cuneiform. What does this mean? All right, the information in our DNA is in layers, just like a book is in layers. When you open that book that you have, you'll see a preface, and then you'll see an introduction, and then you'll see chapter 1. The information ourselves is the same way. What we're decoding right now, we're translating, is the first layer. It's the introduction to the rest of the information in your cell. It's brief, it is concise, it's potent. That first layer, introducing the message in our cells, it literally translates as 2 words, YHVG. And I think most of you know the Hebrew language. Biblical Hebrew does not use vowels. It's a consonant-based language. The vowels are implied, and there are entire texts that tell you what vowels are used and where they're used. So we're looking at the consonants, 2 words, YHVG. What does this mean? All right, you with me? You guys good so far? Yeah? No? Okay, here we go. And we are going to run over just a few minutes, probably 15 minutes we're going to run over. All right? The translation, YH, literally translates into the words God or eternal. So in your cells, you literally have the words God, eternal. Where is God eternal? That's the next word. VH literally translates within the body. What is the introduction to the message that was left to you 200,000 years ago, 10,000 generations ago in the cells of your body? Who are you? What gives you the right to embrace your divinity in this world? Because you are literally God eternal within the body. It doesn't say that you are the God. It says that you are a powerful being, God eternal within the body. That's for cytosine. Now, what we're looking at, here it is, God eternal within the body, God eternal, God eternal. You can see it in red. What about the next guanine? God eternal within the body, God eternal, God eternal, God eternal, God eternal. What about thiamine? God eternal within the body, God eternal within the body. Adenine, God eternal, God eternal, God eternal, God eternal, God eternal. You literally are made of different combinations of God eternal within the body, expressed through the elements that this world is made of. God eternal within the body, the first layer, the message in the DNA. Now, the first time that I saw this, I was working this out by hand. We didn't have the computers. I was on a legal pad. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And the first thing that came across my mind, I said, is this a fluke? Is this by chance? And I called a statistician friend of mine at 3 in the morning who was happy to work with me. And he ran the numbers. The odds that this is a fluke, that this is just by chance, 0.00042%, or 1 in 234,256, implying that this appears to be intentional. This message is an intentional message. These are the odds of the DNA forming a meaningful 4-letter word from the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. We have a message within our bodies. Now, I mentioned this morning, and I did it because I knew we would have this conversation right now. All of those places that I've been to in the past, the amazing monasteries and the nunneries and the temples and ancient temples, they were always built in layers from the outside in. And the innermost part of the temple is where the deepest mysteries were held. The greatest wisdom and the greatest secrets were always held in the innermost sanctum of the temple. And it had a name, and the name of that place was called the Holy of Holies. You hear this in Solomon's temple in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount, where the Ark of the Covenant was stored, was literally inside the Holy of Holies. Well, you also see, almost universally, whether you're talking about Arabic or Hebrew or Sanskrit, they say that our bodies literally are a temple. They call us a temple. And you all have probably heard this before. And if you are biblically inclined, you can actually read this King James Version of the Christian Bible. Literally, 1 Corinthians 3:16, I think it is. 1 Corinthians 3:16. It says, "Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells within ye." So that's biblical. You may not identify with this. If you do, I want you to know those words are actually there. Well, what does this mean? If we are a temple, do we have a Holy of Holies within us? Well, we have not one, but we have in the body temple 50 trillion Holy of Holies, because the nucleus of every cell holds the message that tells you who you are. You're God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body. And the message is exactly the same, no matter what gender you identify with, no matter what your sex, no matter what color of your skin, no matter what your religion. If you are a human, a pure human, you are God eternal within the body. And when we replace our biology with synthetics and technology, we lose that message.
Wow.
And you lose it in one generation, and the next generation begins to forget, and pretty soon we have a species that is lost and has no idea who we are. Our technology is valuable to use outside of our bodies. There's something so ancient and powerful and sacred and precious about this soft technology, this temple. And you need look no further. When you forget who you are, you need look no further. And the 50 trillion cells that you carry in your body across this earth with every step you take, you are God eternal within the body God eternal within the body, and it's the same for everyone. So what does that mean? What does that mean for us? It might take a while for this to sink in. I know it's a lot of information in a brief period of time. That's why I wrote the book. In 2004, I released another book called The God Code. The whole book is about this message. That was the year that I published, so it's 21 years ago. Actually, it was my first book with Hay House. My first Hay House book is called The God Code, and the entire book is about this message. Chapter 2 in the book that you have details this message. What does it mean? We've covered a lot of ground today. A lot of ground. And what I want to do is we close this part of the program out. I'd like us once again to close our eyes to really embody the power of this message. We're talking about human divinity. What gives us the right to express God-like powers of love and forgiveness in this world? What gives us the right is that we are God eternal within the body. And those that want to replace our bodies with synthetics, when they do that, they deny us access to our divinity. And I want you to think about that. I want you to consider it, not judge it, not be angry about it, but just know we're on the verge of giving away our humanness to technology before we even know fully what it means to be human. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes one last time. Close your eyes. Just gently touch your heart center to communicate with the power of our hearts. We don't have to do the full coherence. I'm inviting you to be in your heart just for this message. 200,000 years ago, the first of our kind emerged mysteriously, appeared on this earth, and our ancient ancestor was given the gift that set them apart from all other forms of life. We know that gift today is the gift of biology, DNA. The biology and the DNA that gave them God-like powers. And those powers, they're with us today. They're still locked into the genetic code. It gives us human life, and it gives us human divinity. Something that was given to no other form of life. 10,000 generations ago, our ancestors were deceived into surrendering their divinity to the power of fear. And there are all kinds of books and texts that describe how that happened and why it happened. The point is that our divinity is still with us today. 10,000 generations later, we stand today at the crossroads. Once again, we're being asked to surrender our divinity to technology, of surrendering our bodies, our very humanness, the vessel that carries our divinity. We are the generation that will choose whether or not we are the last generation of pure humans that this world will ever know. The last generation to access our divinity in the way that we were given so long ago. To reclaim our divinity, we're invited to embrace our humanness. We cannot separate the two and accept the power and the responsibility that comes through our human divinity. And it's this message in ourselves that reminds us of our heritage and our purpose and even our destiny. Our destiny to live our humanness to the fullest extent. To love this world into peace. To love this world into peace. We are God eternal within the body. And that's what gives us that right. So now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions as we close this part of our program today. Once again, as you touch your heart, I invite you to say the words, my heart. My heart, do I love myself enough to accept the message that I carry in my body? My heart, do I love myself enough to live the truth of my divinity in a world that doesn't always support that truth? That's where the workshop begins. To live your truth, the best version of yourself, to love fearlessly, to forgive without expectation, to imagine, to innovate, to create, to share in a world that sometimes denies those abilities. Do you love yourself enough to live that in your everyday life? My heart. My heart, what is that ancient wound that I carry in this lifetime that's asking for a greater healing? What is the wound that I've given my power away to in exchange to conform in this world, to feel safe and to be successful? You gave that wound a name earlier. Now I'm going to invite you to call that wound to you, whatever name you gave it. I'm going to ask, how do you now meet your ancient wound, not as a fearful human, but as God eternal within the body? How do you meet the wound of your sense of worth, of your sense of healing, of your ability to love and forgive, or the feeling that all of that has been denied? How do you meet that? Through the power of God eternal within the body. Whatever that answer is, allow it to come to you. This is one of those beautiful places where science, spirituality, real world events all merge into a single knowing. Say, JV, would you go ahead and fade our music, please? I'm going to invite you now to take one more breath if you haven't already. Inhale. And as you release that breath, gently begin to open your eyes. I wish you could see all the God eternals within the body that I'm looking at here. Because you look beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I know we've covered a lot of ground. I know some of it's new and some of it is very familiar. I know some of it is a very different way of thinking. And I invited you this morning to put it all into a file folder in your mind called possibilities, because that makes it safe to explore anything, just a possibility. My sense is that through this year and in the next 5 years, you and I are going to see the attempts to remake this world, and they can't do it unless they remake our bodies. My hope, my goal was to give you a deeper sense of appreciation for the gift of your body in this world, and once again, maybe even a sense of pride. I'm immensely proud to walk as a human on this earth. I believe that we're valuable. I believe we're worth preserving. I believe that pure humans are worth preserving. Through our divinity, we triumph in the ancient struggle between good and evil. Remember, the goal of evil is to deny our divinity. So without fighting back, by simply moving forward and living the best version of ourselves in all the ways that we've talked about, loving fearlessly, forgiving without expectation, empathizing with our brothers and sisters who are having a really hard time in the world right now, sympathize, compassion. The healing of your own body is only possible as you accept your own personal divinity. It's through accepting those abilities that we triumph. We don't win, we triumph in this battle between good and evil. I think probably our highest form of mastery is to protect the vessel that holds the message, God eternal within the body. Our highest mastery to preserve and protect this vessel. And I want you to think back to this day and think back to this book and the time we've shared together. When the marketing campaigns coerce you and indoctrinate you and persuade you and lure you into replacing the gift of your humanness with that technology, I'm not going to tell you it's right, wrong, good, or bad. I just want you to know what it means, and I want you to know what the consequences are of doing that. Through our divinity, we triumph in the struggle between good and evil. My goal in this day was to awaken a confidence within you to accept the invitation. What invitation is that? It's your invitation. You're standing at the precipice of a doorway. That door is opening in front of you to step into the world that's emerging as the best version of yourself. That means something has to change in your life. That means that you have to think differently about yourself in the presence of the world that's emerging, not the world that has been. That's my goal. In the 4 hours that we've spent together, my prayer is that that door is opened, and I'm going to welcome you to whatever new world you have based on what we have done in this brief time together, whatever new understandings, whatever deeper appreciation you have for yourself. Welcome to the new world in here, because that is where the world out there is going to come from, the way we think of ourselves. I want to thank you all for spending part of your day with me today. And I'm going to invite you to thank whoever you share your life with for sharing you with us for these 4 hours as a big part of your day. Today, thank you for supporting Hay House and all the ways you do, all the amazing authors. Many of them are dear friends and colleagues of mine. We've known each other most of our lifetimes, even before we had books. Bruce Lipton and I just celebrated 30 years of friendship before either one of us had our books out there. And I want to thank you for supporting him and for everything you're doing to be the best version of yourself, and by doing that, to create the best world possible. This is what pure human awakening is all about. And with that, that's what I wanted to say to you today. I'm going to close our program. I'm going to invite you to enjoy that book. I hope you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed putting it together for you. I'm going to say I love you all for a bunch of reasons. I love you for being on this planet right now, for staying with it, for not giving up, for the love that you bring this world. We need every single one of you. Thank you for all you do to be the best version of yourself. I love you. God bless. Take good care. I look forward to our next. Thank you.
Whew. I'm going to have to transfer this over to some flash drive that won't be within my own flash drive of my heart math. That's a long one, and several other ones before this. It's going on 33 minutes and 21 seconds. 23 seconds. There we go. Thank you. Glad I could record this and take pictures, screenshots.